If you asked me if Web3 had a prankster, I might be tempted to name our upcoming guest. Today we're welcoming Santiago to the show to discuss his art as well as his new AI collaboration with Emergent Properties called What Does It Mean to Have a Body? Artist Journal, May 10th, 2023, broadcasting live to the world from Berlin and New York City on Rug Radio via Twitter Spaces. My name is Adrian Pocabelli, and we welcome back co-host, artist, and conversationalist to the show, Rune Toon. Rune, how is your week going?
Oh, I always love your little intros. They always get me pretty pumped up for these spaces. My week has been very busy. It's been one of those weeks where, because it's so busy, the time I use to make art is the time that gets snubbed, unfortunately. But there'll be other weeks. How is your week going, Poco Belly?
As you say that, I just have to relate to it. I cannot help but relate to it. And my solution to that, as far as, the art time being the first to be sacrificed, it really is. I don't know if you're an early riser, but it's kind of all about the mornings and all getting it done first. Because then it even gets it in your head at the start of the day. So then all of a sudden you kind of feel like an artist for the rest of the day rather than, a pawn in the larger game where you're going to IKEA and whatever else. So, anyways,
I definitely relate to that. Yes.
yeah. Are you an early riser?
Oh yeah, I try and get up early every day, but I work nights, so sometimes the early rise doesn't happen as early as I'd like. But in general, yeah, I'm up pretty early.
God, well, that sounds fun in New York City to be out in the night working. I hope. I'm imagining you at some bar over there or something.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I would get nothing done, and the alcohol can't help either.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having a great week here. I'm trying to get Santiago up on stage. Santiago, I am sending you an invite to speak. So you should see it in your notifications. But yeah, things are going well over here. Actually, Chi Moscow Jackson invited me to his show here, and I just uploaded a work here. It's kind of like a mind and matter sort of show. So I did one of these screenshot things with Neuralink, and there's Santiago. So, anyways, I'm excited about that. So I just got that up before we went live here, and welcome everybody. I mean, Santiago has a pretty, you know, uh, big crowd that follows what he does. Let's put it that way. Santiago in Uruguay. I'm so thrilled you are coming on, and the excitement is tangible. Welcome to the show.
How are you guys? I'm walking home.
Welcome.
Car broke again.
Oh no.
Santiago sent me a picture, and it's like the middle of nowhere, and he's on like a country road, and I guess you're walking, Santiago.
Yeah, we used to live here together, my kid and her mom and I.
Uh-huh.
And now I live closer to the road, so it's, I think, 2 miles or 3 kilometers now to get home. And yeah, my daughter has the lack of missing school today. That's good.
Yeah, does she is she a good student?
She's just 4.
Okay.
It's all clay.
Okay. Well, you
Are
don't
they
have to
walking
worry about
home with
that
you
yet.
right now?
What? Sorry.
Are they walking with you, or are you alone?
No, I'm alone. Yeah,
Oh,
they are in their daily life, morning without school. It's all good.
Good.
Do you mind if I tweet out that photo that you sent, Santiago, so
Oh,
everybody?
please do
I
it.
think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it. I'll put it under. I'll just put it on. I think I have it on my pinned tweet here. I'll put it underneath the pinned tweet so people can look. So, anyways, so how are things going with you, Santiago? You just put out this awesome show or awesome series. What does it mean to have a body? I guess that's how long did that take you? And can you talk a little bit about that whole process? And I'm still trying to wrap my head around what you guys did. I mean, you're working with Emergent Properties. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So back in December, Emergent Properties. Emil contacted me, and we know each other for some months before, and also Victor, who is Yepa Yepa Yepa. It's a great Twitter handle that comes from Silverio. I think it's an Argentinian uh, showman of the electronic music.
Okay.
Okay, so they contacted me and we started having some meetings, and the general idea or kind of project that is was out there for me to do is making a lot of prompting in a way that is dynamic. So there's variability in what parts of the prompt are going to be randomly selected from sets of prompts that I do. And they had also given me, and I didn't take it, the possibility of having some sort of image to image input too. Mine is only text to image, but I think there has been some projects there with a bit of image to image too.
Well, very interesting. So they approached you, and I have to say, like, I haven't done a ton of AI, but the first things that I started to like that when I started using Midjourney, like not that long ago, when I started really trying, it was anatomy stuff. So when I saw your series, I kind of related to it kind of right away because you get all these weird anatomical situations, right? Just from just by asking the AI to produce certain things, you get all these weird things. So was that your idea? Was it can you talk a little bit about the body side of things? Like, why did you decide to choose a body as your subject matter? And was that something that they asked you to do, or is it something you collaborated with and decided on, or was that your idea?
Yeah, I was free to do whatever, but I was checking what could be my project, and I found some Midjourney output, like older, and it was this kind of images was it mentioned Matthew Barney in the prompt, and it mentioned Joseph Boyce and some. I think Kitach too was mentioned, the Irish painter, and from that I wanted to clear that from naming artists,
Yeah.
right? Not having references from artists. So I started describing those images, and that was the early work for that. And I also was asking around more educated than me people about performance art and contemporary art, which is, in my opinion, and with no intention of being too critical, there's something in the NFT space that is kind of very visual, and that's beautiful. But at the same time, one can get the feel that the whole 20th century is omitted sometimes.
That's very interesting. I like that idea that, because it is true. Sometimes you do get the feeling that the whole 20th century is omitted, or it's not so important to, attach the art that we see that we're making every day to an art of the past. I mean, it's something that you can do, and I think it's good practice to do that. But I like that that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I see some roots in like older things, like a modern idea of painting and art more than a contemporary one. And that's fine too. I think that painterly painting is wider in popularity, and we have a lot of artists that are starting to be artists as they come into the NFT space, and that's great.
Right.
I think it's part of the magic.
Well,
And sometimes, there's a lot of artists that, as you mentioned, they become artists as they enter into the space, and maybe their background isn't so attached to the arts like some people's backgrounds are. And so they don't have all this reference in their head already, but it's just something that's kind of been absorbed through daily life and being surrounded by things that are referential to art in general.
Yeah, about that, for example, I see an example which is not about lacking reference, but more about focus. And all the people that come from tech bring to the visual art scene, I think, sorts of things that are great, right? And in the whole art history, they tend to focus in a couple of things, right? There's Rogelio. Hola, Rogelio! That was my neighbor when I lived there. Great guy. He's like, I think 80, but looks older even. Always there to help.
Well,
But very sad life.
well, if you need to mute to ask for car help, we totally understand. Actually, don't mute if you ask for car help. We want to hear
No,
every
the car.
little detail of you asking for car
I
help.
left the car. I
Oh,
left the
you left the
car.
car. Okay.
My yeah. I got rid of the car. I'm just walking.
So can I
I,
can I pick up on what you were just saying about just because I thought it was really interesting, and I think it speaks to kind of truth that isn't often expressed. But and help me if I don't understand you right. But what I understand you saying is maybe in the NFT space, there's just a slightly there's more of a focus, you might say, on the aesthetic compared to maybe what you're used to in the contemporary art scene. Like, I mean, I can speak for Berlin here. Well, I can't speak for Berlin, but for being in Berlin. And yeah, like sometimes you go to shows and it feels like the viewer's experience has been completely neglected in favor of some, super abstract concept that really doesn't hit you on any level emotionally or oftentimes conceptually. But is that sort of what you're getting at here? Like it's kind of a reawakening of kind of aesthetic appreciation of a certain kind that's not overly abstract?
that's cool too. Yeah, I see that. And I also see a door more widely open. I think there's habits in the art community, in the traditional art community, that could tend to that abstract thing you say, but also, yeah, there's some elitism, I guess.
Yeah, and by
And
abstract I mean like in terms of conceptually abstract, not abstract art. Yeah,
yeah,
because I'm all good.
yeah,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course. And about all these and what I just said, I mean, I am a painter, so I work with very old means. I'm not in the cutting edge of getting rid of materiality or anything that has happened in these 100 years. But I see this more painterly feel to it in the NFT space.
I totally sympathize and agree with what you're saying. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into art? Like, have you been a lifelong artist? I assume you have, just because you kind of just from my you know perception over Twitter here for Lion over Object. I mean, it seems like you kind of live, eat, and breathe art to a certain degree. Like this is your life in a lot of ways. Like, so how did you get started? Has it been your life like for a while here?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I used to draw all the time, and I was there were like help from others to feel that was good. So that was great. My environment was okay with it or happy about it. So that's I think they carry sand or some not sand but it's big bags. I'm sorry, a large truck with bags.
Oh,
So I was a drawing kid, and then like my heroes became painters. Uh, the most known painters, I guess Picasso at first, and then Toulouse-Lautrec and Van Gogh and shit like that. And as I grew up, I had some bands when I was a teenager. When I started smoking pot, I had some bands, and I was drunk all day too. And I started writing poetry for those bands. And then I was a poet in the Montevideo scene of poetry. And then I was doing visual poetry, so I was drawing again. And then I had some period of drawing like every hour I was awake for some years when I was like 25, 28, 30.
Fascinating. And so, did you ever have the opportunity to show? Like, I assume you grew up in Uruguay, and were there many opportunities for you to, like, did you ever, sell your work to at least friends or family, or were you just kind of on your own? Or did you have a lot of success, and did you have several exhibitions? Like, how did that all work?
Oh, I had one solo show, just one. And I was in a little underground or semi underground scene because it's so little here that the people that are the underground are the same uh, university level middle class that makes the main scene. So I was around and I had a solo show of my inks, and I used to have some collectors and some experiments with meeting people and etc.
Interesting. And that's one of the things I actually love about your work, and which I think almost characterizes a lot of your work, is experimentalism. It really, like, you're always trying different things, and when new tools, whether it's retro tools or creating that JavaScript, Hasdrubal draws. And welcome everybody, by the way. I saw there's an awesome crowd that has showed up for Santiago, including Hasdrubal Waffle. We got Haiti Roquette, Frank Frazetta, Sabato, Evelyn O, Ed Marola, Edge Q, and Dr. Version, and Rennie Fish, and on, Retro Manny. We can't name everybody, but thank you all for coming. And if you want to join the conversation, just put request to speak, and we'll happily bring you on stage to hang out with Runetune and Santiago and myself. Um, so, yeah, this experimentalism, Santiago, again, I think it kind of characterizes your work. So my question for you then, because you do have, it is actually, I can recognize your work most of the time, unless it's perhaps a secret account, but even then I sometimes think I can. But has your work, uh, is it recognizable, your NFT work, that it's the same person that made your physical work? Like, are they quite similar, uh, the work?
Yeah, I think so. I think I can easily relate what I see in my inks work and my watercolor or just painting. I see, I see them relate. I don't know about others, but yeah, people sometimes um, have that reading too. Yeah,
One thing that I like,
I think I think there's an idea of um, uh, there's some consistency idea for pushed as the way to have some commercial success, and I think consistency can go deeper, can be just about being always experimenting, for example.
you are very consistent with certain things, but what I also like is that you seem to be very free to just do whatever you want, and you're so plugged into so many different things. Speaking on being like very prolific, one thing that I like, you've put this in the bio on your super rare page, but you say that you approach art more as practice than ideas. And I think that's like a really great way to kind of summarize uh, your approach to a lot of your art making, or at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry. I see that there's some accent on art being ideas, and that was good. Uh, It has some. It relates to what we were speaking earlier. That it was good to detach art from some
Some
specific practices.
right, like when the way
Like,
we were speaking about, a lot of people when they approach art from this very conceptual standpoint, and it can kind of get a little abstract, and it's kind of like when you read like a certain philosopher whose ideas are just a little too abstract to relate to. It's always refreshing to see someone whose work is instantly recognizable and instantly relatable.
yeah, where I was going is that as art was at some stage of modernity, like this thing where you are a painter or a sculptor and you or a musician and you follow some paths, and then some people changed within those techniques or medias. They changed parts of the how it's constructed, but then late it came. I think this idea of art being ideas came with the avant-garde movement, and it was great to shake that, right? Like the rituals that a painter has to go through, and the narrow description of what an artist in any branch should do, or how they should live. So it was great, this thing, artist ideas, but it became also a chorus repeated. And um sometimes I think in an anthropological way, art is like a layer of the existence of everyone. It's like an interface that has been there since forever, and we relate to it, go deeper inside of it, or we stay at the borders, but it relates to everyone.
Right. And then, it's always been this way, but like socially, commercially, there's always those few artists that we put on the top who are, world renowned. And I I think that it's important for artists like you and like the rest of us to kind of keep things grounded, because it's not always that someone's totally in control of their ideas and what they're trying to do as an artist. Um, I read a New York Times article on Robert Crumb recently, and the journalist was asking him specifically about the meaning of one of his frames, and he couldn't come up with an answer. And I think it was his wife who chimed in and said something like, any artist who claims that they know exactly why, or the reason behind what they did is like kind of, it's bullshit. Like, not everyone knows exactly why they do everything, and so it's kind of grounding to hear to hear you speak on this, and to read like that little description you put on your super rare about art being more of practice than ideas.
And about what you say, that whoever says that they knew what they wanted to say, or where they were heading, there's this thing that it's kind of true, that if you're about to say something and you are completely clear about it, you can just use natural language, and why would the art part be there? And yeah, we could argue, well, it could be said more strongly, but I don't know. I personally go to art to find things more than coming with my truth to say things.
Well, that is beautifully put, and that's exactly where I was hoping to go here, which is your approach. How do you approach art making? Like when you start, I mean, I assume you have some sort of ideas that you want to try out, but like you're saying, it's not like you know exactly how that's going to turn out. Like tell us a little bit about your process, and I assume it changes with uh, every, if you're doing AI, it's going to be a different kind of process. But just tell us how you approach art a little bit.
Yeah, so I kind of think I am a very destructive person, and that I managed to work just with art now, but all my life I worked just with art and had no money or lived with my parents, still old. So I try to be surrounded by my things. I used to sleep next to a painting to wake up and paint all day and go to bed again. Now I'm older and I have a kid, so it's a bit different. But I have the stuff, my supplies, or now a lot of computer, but I have always something, or tabs opened, or some drawing apps opened. And I'm thinking about it all day, but I don't do this kind of in order process of having an idea and go into the material instance of what I will do. I'm always like chewing a lot of like visual and conceptual too, and even sounds, and with those in my head. And I pick something and sometimes improve it or just play with it. I kind of got to this point. I don't know the word in English, but you have mentioned this before, Adrian. Guy Debord's way of losing oneself in a city.
Interesting. I'm not a huge Guy Debord. I mean, that was Society of the Spectacle, and maybe, I mean, I know getting into flow. I mean, you could call it some psychologists.
Deriving, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just a non-capitalistic use of time and not goal-oriented use of time.
Right. And you use a lot of like free software, don't you? Like, and for you, that actually has like a purpose and a meaning. And also like, I mean, not to go in too many directions here, but like when you're talking about your process, like it almost like when I think of your work and I look at your work, it almost feels like jazz improvisation. Like you kind of open up your thing and then you just start working, trying stuff out, trying to make this work. Does that resonate with you at all?
Well, when I was a musician, I always thought I wanted to be trained enough to just play live, and that it was good, or it was the strongest thing I could do. Sadly, it just doesn't work like that, and you have to memorize sequences of chords. So I gave up being a musician because I can't remember stuff too much. Um, but yeah, I think that at the time of the execution, a lot more happens than that is linked to a whole life training. Things that are old or attached to memories can pop up, and at the unexpected is gonna save us. I think that.
I love that. That is very quotable, Santiago. The unexpected is going to save us. I see Kant is on stage and he has his hand up. Kant from Delhi, welcome to the show. It's great to hear from you again.
Hello everyone. Pocobelli, Room 2, Santiago. Hope you people are doing great. A wonderful conversation. I just interrupted because I wanted to add something very relevant. When the Runtun was telling about this small anecdote about the artist not being able to explain their work, I think that's completely fine. Because artists are human beings end of the day, and everything affects us, like the personal things to the whole social climate also. So when they are working, there could be something subconscious or unconscious can enter to the artwork, and completely fine, because at the end of the day they are just mirroring what they have inside themselves. So I think it's completely fine if artists are not able to explain their work. If again, as the Santiago was saying, if we can tell a story, if we can tell something in the words, then why we need to express them in visual arts? Actually, we'll not have any need of making a painting if we can express everything in with the literary medium. So I think the arrival of rationalism has created this climate of, artists must be knowing their work completely and being able to explain them. But I think it's completely fine, because the artist must also get something from their artwork which surprises them. I think for me it's a pleasure when I see something which enters into the artwork and it surprises me. So I also take that aspect as my remuneration. That is something I get from my artwork while I put my that intellectual labor or physical labor. So I also see that element of surprise as my remuneration, personal remuneration, which I get from my art.
Yeah, I love the idea also of art, or the artwork, the final work, as a symptom, right? We might not be completely sure what happens or what is happening in our lives. There's always layers and chambers of what's happening that we can't know. We just can't. And yeah, art can show them or show some glimpse of them, or just show images, and we get to imagine something like that is happening, which is fun too.
Uh, so Santiago, then, just on I'm really glad that, and thank you, Kent, for that comment. That was very interesting. It's a very interesting subject, and I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to go back to this thing that Runtun was saying, which was these abstract works that are on super rare. Like, I kind of have this theory when I look at those works, that you're kind of taking stuff from everything, and as I like to say, you're kind of putting it through a meat grinder, or you're kind of processing what looks like images from everywhere and everything, and then kind of turning that into something that's kind of uniform a little bit, something that can be united. And it's just this kind of recycled, picture of our images of our lives, but, of our digital lives, but just kind of, completely processed by you. Can you speak about the abstract works and on, say, super rare, and even on object, and what you're trying to do there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love the whole thing, the whole thinking you have done around that in my work and in other artists. The idea of digital detritus, which is very fun to hear. And yeah, in the case of the super rare pieces, most of them, or in big part, come from digital paintings I do and sacrifice to those pieces so they eat the other work. I make some stuff that will not be minted and it will be forgotten, but it will be inside of those. So, like in this case, more than picking garbage or yeah, just stuff that is floating, I create stuff that I will kill later. I'm inside of the gas station. I'm gonna get some bread and a coffee.
This is, it already has the feeling of a classic episode here with Santiago making
Yeah.
his way from his crash or his broken down car, walking to the gas station along the deserted road there. This is fantastic. You know, I'm really thrilled that You Don't Know Who We Are has joined us on the stage here. So, You don't know who we are. You are not Santiago then, because I thought maybe, just maybe, you were Santiago. So now I think I have confirmation here, unless you're also in a gas station. Welcome to the stage. Where are you calling from?
Hello, everyone. So I'm not Santi. We are not Santi, but it's a pleasure and a honor to be to anyone think that we are Santi. And it's very nice to be here. Thank you for having me. And I want to talk about Santi works and Santi personality because one of the things that I love about his work is how passionate he is about things, and he can create a whole story about crazy things of little nothing, so I think this is a very special thing and very poetic, and 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 I'm from Brazil, so this is not my native language, just saying. And I want to congrats Santi for his last work. Do you what means to have a body? Because this is what I think that his art is. It's like every time a provocation and always a question, never an answer. So I think this is very cool. And Santi, if you don't want to memorize things on a concert, I will call you for our band so we can just improvise. uh,
Frank Zappa mode.
I love it. I love it. So that's great. So are you guys friends then? You don't know who we are? Like it seems like you guys are at least in contact. Are you all? So you're in Brazil. I mean, have you ever met, or you guys just know each other online through Twitter, basically?
no, we never. Oh, sorry, Santi.
No, talk, please. I'm sorry.
No problem. We never meet in real life, but I don't know. Santi was one of the persons when we entered in the space that helped us a lot. Like he used to do some spaces that I really miss, and I don't know. I was trying to start to speak in English in public. So I went to the space and I was like, "Oh, I'm not. I'm Brazilian and that kind of stuff." And he was always saying, "No, if you can communicate, that is great, and that give me some strength to talk and to be more open and to talk with people and express how I can." So this was very important in the beginning. So that's not just because that, but that's why I love him so much, to always be kind and don't know helping people. I think this is great, and this is what makes a community strong.
Thanks for sharing all of that. You don't know who we are.
Yeah, I think it's great. And by the way, your English, you don't know who we are, is very good. Like we understand everything. There, you know.
I have to second
Yeah,
that.
so all good there. So it seems like the practice on Santiago's spaces. I wish I'd seen those. I mean, that sounds awesome. I've
Same.
missed so many things. So that is awesome. Santiago, if you're not at the cashier there, can you tell us a little bit then, since you don't know who we are, brought up the AI show? I do want to return to that. I mean, there's text and everything. Tell us, like you mentioned it a little bit at the start, but help me just, how did you then approach it? You met these people, and then, like, what were the mechanics really of you making this project? Did you go to ChatGPT and say, give me some, prompts for bodies? Did you go to Midjourney or some other stable diffusion I think you used on that? Like, how did you go about actually doing this? Where did you start?
So I started with some vague ideas of what could stable diffusion give me, and working with Improv's team. Every week we have a meeting, and we are continuing to do that. Probably we will have more meetings, and we when I started making the prompts, it was a lot of about going to meanings cells. I guess that's what I have learned while learning how to paint. It was like going to the basics and the most basic ideas and learning to construct from there. And of course, for the prompt thing and stable diffusion, this works different, because as soon as there is 2 or 3 ideas put there, stable diffusion does whatever crazy shit. So there was that. For example, seeing what happened, mentioning just performance art or limbs or sculptures made of limbs. And then there was this other side, which has to do with what I was saying, that is this sort of saturation of meaning that can take the text to image engines to very interesting spots. Like when I was working before with Midjourney, I used to put on it a lot of impossible physical circumstances and try to get the machine to be a bit more philosophical by doing that, which is nothing new, right? It's what I guess surrealism did with images and in dialogue with human imagination.
Well, it is a natural surrealist tool, isn't it? I mean, it's hard not to, you're joining these two realities together, oftentimes in a new context. And I think it's just, it's really interesting. And I'm going to go to EdgeQ in a second, but I'm just curious about the text part of it then. Was that Emergent Properties? Like, how did, like, because there's these great kind of, almost stream of consciousness text that's with each image. How does that factor into the project? And then we'll go over to EdgeQ after.
Yeah, so the titles part was we thought about it and thought of options, and this happened that I think that, for example, ChatGTP or the other ideas of having random parts of text making the titles went to a very schematic place, or for example also like a moral place. You probably have seen that ChatGTP has this moral and kind of
I have seen that. Yeah, where it's
yeah.
kind of,
So
it's got a perspective, let's call it. It's not neutral.
so in all the madness of the poetry, I tried to make more from some prompt titles, and it was like horrible and really serious about the end of the world. That I guess is one of the main themes I work with all the time. So we decided to do as Danielle did, who is here. Hi, Danielle. I love you.
Oh,
She had that project Muses.
she is coming on stage here, actually, and that is awesome.
Oh, great. So she put a name to each of those women in her project by writing the all the names, and those were assigned randomly to the output. So I decided to do that too, and I wrote the 500 short poems for the titles of those pieces.
Okay, so you wrote those then, but using AI. Is that right?
No, I wrote those by
Oh, you
hand.
did? Well, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah,
They're
because
pretty good.
I failed to get ChatGPT to give me some.
Right,
So
gotcha.
there's only one that is generated by ChatGPT. I forgot which one, but I included one.
Okay, that's poetic in itself, Santiago. And EdgeQ, let's go to EdgeQ quickly, and then we'll go over to Danielle King, who was a collaborator on the project. EdgeQ, welcome from Puerto Rico, I believe. Great to see you again here on stage.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Adrian. The, saludos to everybody from Puerto Rico. It's great to see Santiago. Great to see everybody here. Mikey, Greg, Dr. Version, Free. Shout outs to everybody. Can't name them all. I just wanted to hop on and make a quick question to Santiago. Uh, in terms of his body of work, recent body of work, pun intended. Um, how has making this project or making the prompts or working on this exhibition changed the way that you relate with your body, and how has it, if any, changed how you philosophically view life? Because getting old is weird, but machines don't get old. And how do you wrap that around?
I love this question. It changed all. I'm I'm very serious about this. It did because, as I was saying, I'm just someone that wakes up and works in some visual notes that with some undetermination of what will happen. I'm home now, so I'm putting my headset. Okay,
Beautiful. I
great.
love it.
Wow, that was long.
There you go.
So it changed all because I started setting meetings, weekly meetings with the Imprompt team, and I was for 4 months working in the same thing. So as I worked always before this, my work was like there's no project, but if you kind of see behind the project is my art project, right? My life art project. So there's project, but there's also this possibility of it being diluted by time, or something is part of what I am doing now, so it's okay. And maybe there's not a goal and a sense of time, and also a sense of institutional time working with others. So it changed my body because I was in intense work weeks in some periods of those 4 months, and it changed a lot for me my view of how to work here in the crypto art sphere. It's everything is very fast, and I usually do some work that is done in 1, 2, 3 days. And as I say, I I don't feel guilty about it, and I don't feel that's bad because it's the moment of execution of many years of training and studying. But it was great to have a slow project and with a lot of building through the time.
Awesome question, EdgeQ, and great answer, Santiago. Danielle King, welcome to the show. It's great to hear from you and see you on stage. Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Western Massachusetts, the Berkshires, where I live, and I am currently actually also on a walk, but I'm by a river and in a forest, so you'll hear different sounds than probably in Santi's background. Um, Hi, everybody. Santiago, I'm so happy to hear you on here. Santiago is one of the first artists that I found and started following and collecting when I started collecting on Tezos back in early 2021, and I'm just such a huge fan of his work and of his persona and personality and warmth and generosity. So first had to say that I just love you to death. And I have a question. So as was alluded to earlier, I also dropped a project on MProps, a generative AI project called the Muses. And similar to you, Santiago, most of my work is sort of curated, right? Like you do your digital paintings and your IRL paintings, and you sort of, when they're done and you think that they're good and they're ready, you put them out there. And my AI work is similar. I'll curate and put out and mint, individual selected things that I think, have something to say, look nice, etc. With these generative projects, you make the prompts, you work hard to craft them, you test them. But at the end of the day, as I think you said earlier, like the AI is sometimes it's going to do some crazy shit. So my question to you is, how did you feel about that giving up of control? And, in these weeks and weeks of working with the MProps team and testing and, changing different parameters of your project, what how did you know you were done? I mean, I think that was something that was hard for me is, knowing that there would be some outputs that I maybe didn't love, but being okay with that and feeling like, okay, this is ready. So I just love to hear how you went about that.
So I think I felt I was ready in a serious and boring way, which was that the logics of the treats had some order because it was a mess. In my case, the work was a mess inside my head. We did a great job and very organized, but inside my head, it was a mess. There were like huge spaces of things happening that I had to cut and make functional to a consistent project and thing. And then there's in the random parts of my project, in the random pieces of prompts, there's a lot of primary prompts chopped together with the traits part or the characteristics part. So there's like also kind of a poetic search there because when I was in poetry, I used to do a lot of copy and paste stuff and breaking the syntax of things or losing track of what's happening or writing sentences that were so long that made no sense. And also, I love you too, Danielle. You are amazing. I'm very happy to be your friend. And I'm sure we're going to meet each other in real life. That's going to happen sooner or later. And yeah, and I loved your project, The Muses, too.
Thank you so much. And yes, we will meet. We're manifesting that right now.
Yeah. So the finishing the project was more a matter of seeing it work because I about the first question, I try to be a person that lets go control. I just do not care anymore. I'm now 37, and when I was 16, I was in the hands of shrinks for a long time till I was like 24 or 25, and I had a lot of meds that were horrible to me. So I had many periods of my life in where I was an adult and other adults had to be the adults for me. So I like the border of losing control, and that's how I went crazy. And I also can let go control, and that's how I'm still alive.
Well, I mean, that is an incredible situation, and it kind of gives hope for everyone that, there you were probably a lot of trouble for a lot of people way back then, if or at least like, just in difficult situation. And here you are, people are just grateful and thankful to you for everything you've done for them. Kind of look up to you somewhat, if that's not the right expression, but you know what I'm saying. So it's a real, testament to you that you're able to grow out of that, whatever that situation was, and here you are. So this is awesome. And Danielle, were you like, help me out? Were you involved in this bodies project with Santiago at all, or in some capacity?
No, no, I wish I could claim credit. My project was totally separate. I am happy to hear though that the way that I went about naming the muses assisted in some way with the amazing titling of this project. As you all must know, because you're fans of Santiago, his titles are epic, and I was so happy when I saw this project. And the amazing titles that he came up with, and really interesting to hear that you came up with those all on your own. 500 of them, that must have been quite the lift, but I think it was worth it because they're pretty incredible.
Yeah, that was one of the next finishing stage or idea that we were finished sitting down and writing those titles. That was like 10 days of madness. And of course, the car broke in the middle of it. And yeah, it was great.
Of course it did. All your stories of your car breaking, it makes me not miss owning a car. Let me tell you, because it's always like this sword of Damocles that's dangling above your head. Is when is this car going to break down next? And that doesn't even include just like taking it in for servicing. And if you don't do that, then your warranty is done. It's just endless, as my mom calls it, a money pit. These cars. So I totally relate. Farid, welcome to the show. Do you have a question? Where are you calling from? And do you have a question for Santiago? Farid, do you read me? You have joined the stage. Do you hear me? You may be on mute. There we are.
Are you talking
I
to
am
me?
talking to you. Am I pronouncing your name right, Farid?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
excellent.
good.
Where are you calling from? And do you have a question for Santiago?
I am calling from Venezuela, and I don't have a question, but I want to say that first of all, I'm very glad to be here listening to you guys. This is like my second time ever talking in a Twitter space because I'm very shy to do this, but I was mainly encouraged by listening to You Don't Know Who We Are. It's a very good friend of mine, and this was the first time also that I am hearing his voice. So what I want to say is that I admire Santiago very much, and the reason is because everyone here on this space called Web3 or whatever, I feel like we are all trying to keep some sort of image and masquerading our personalities behind some sort of character of being a serious artist and a serious person. And Santiago is one of the few people that I see that is extremely transparent and extremely honest with his personality, and he doesn't need to hide behind a mask of being like an extremely serious person. Like everyone is always calculating what they're gonna say, how are they gonna say it, and like overthinking everything. Like I can't make fun of this because it's gonna damage my image, or I cannot say this very honest uh, thing because it's gonna put collectors away or anything. And he is uh, my best example of a successful artist that is not afraid of showing himself exactly as he is. And that is very inspiring to me because I love honesty and I love transparency. So I admire his personality a lot because of that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Well,
Muchas gracias, amigo. Thanks.
yeah, beautifully put, Farid. Beautifully put. Pretty impressive beginning there for your public speaking on spaces. A wonderful comment there. And I share what you see about Santiago. I guess it's like the artistic spirit, or just like a real artist. You know, a real artist can't, use that in quotes, and that can be interpreted a billion different ways. But it's just kind of unapologetic about who they are. Take it or leave it. You're kind of stuck with whatever I am, and you don't need to pay attention. But here I am, and I'm going to do my thing. And you got to love that spirit. Anyways, Paradukes, welcome to the show. As we're starting to wrap up here, welcome to the stage. Where are you calling from? And do you have a question or comment for Santiago? Paradukes, do you read me?
Yes, yes, yes.
There we are.
Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you
Yes,
hear
you
me?
are on the stage. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
loud and
So
clear.
I'm so glad to join this space on Web3, and I'm listening to all artists in here. So thank you, Sir Pocobelli. You entertain me. So I'm Kim from the Philippines, and uh, I'm the new artist of digital creators. So I'm using my cell phone, and I heard testimony of Santiago. Santiago, I want to say the great in digital technology or AI, or what you use in marketplace crypto. So I want to here in space because I want to learn more or every artist journey because I am the beginners, and I want to know about anything in crypto, in FT art, or I want to learn, and I'm happy to hear anyone in this space, and modes more courage to myself because I am the beginners, and for joining this space, I want to know about the strategy, market, art, and that's why I'm here. So I'm glad, and thank you so much. So Sir Santiago, I want to say you have a great experience in market, in art, in FT crypto, and everyone here is I want to thank you. We meet in space in Web3 because of this GC Artist Journal of Ragridio. Thank you for creating this, and Sir Santiago, our guest on art and AI. So thank you so much. So that's all,
Thanks,
sir.
Paradox. Thank you, Paradox. Yeah, I also put Philippines time for this space. You saw that. Most of all because our friend Salawaki is from the Philippines. And I think she couldn't make it. But yeah, thanks for that. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Paradox,
it's great,
you
and
came to the right place.
yeah. Thank you so much. I want to learn more.
Yeah, everybody give Paradox a follow if you'd like to help him out. And yeah, anyways, welcome to the community as far as this little space is concerned. So, as we're wrapping up here, guys, Santiago, I guess I have a couple of questions for you. Um, in a sense, I guess what's coming up, and I'll ask you that first. What's coming? What's next?
Okay, so next is resting, trying to to have normal weeks with the car and taking the kid and kid. I'll see the mechanic will be here tomorrow, so that's one of the next things. And the next thing in the order of more like announcements is that kind of soon I'll start talking about ordering physicals from
Oh,
me,
cool.
but there's time.
Very cool. That's exciting. Yeah, I just saw something like Art Matter with Zancan, where they're starting to sell physicals on Object. I was actually kind of blowing the start of the next show potentially, but yeah. So, are you going to try selling them on
Yeah,
Object?
you are familiar with Arlen Maltby,
Yeah, that's
right?
you,
The
right?
the
I,
yeah,
I
watercolor
knew it.
artist.
I knew it. I didn't want to blow your cover there,
Yeah.
Santiago, but
No, there's no problem because I made the Arlen account once. I think I wanted to hide my name. I wanted to try. This was just an experiment. It was, I think that how we interact on Twitter, even if Twitter is a Web 2 app and it's in many ways um, a problem for us, we are here all the time. So I tried to make some experiments. And one of those was trying to turn a doxed artist in an anonymous artist. So I created Arlen Malby and changed the name of this account to Arlen Malby and tried to hide myself for some days. But then it was my NFT birthday in July last year. It was the first, for a year I have been doing NFTs. So I minted from my main account again and it came with my main account. And I kept Arlen Malby too because Arlen was great. So why killing Arlen?
I think that's so great, and I could totally tell. I mean, they are reminiscent. They're fairly similar to your like super rare or your other abstract works that you put on Object. So I guess confirmation on Arlen Maltby. And final sort of question I have before I turn it over to anybody else in Runetoon. What do you want people to know about you and your art? Like, for people that might not know or anything, like what are you trying to do? Is another way of asking that question.
Yeah, so as a young person, I was very much of this idea of dissolving personality and dissolving author. Personality doesn't matter, or you could be whoever else, or eating this kind of sandwich doesn't define me. This kind of clothes might taste either. So taste is just limitations. What was one of the things I used to say, like the taste is more what you haven't seen than choices. And it was great living like that, and it was enriching for my experience as a human. But as I grew up, I started to find myself in front of me, right? I am a human with very simple affinities to things that are just like that. So I don't push the personal part of all this, but I am very personal naturally about what I do. And about art, I think that one of the an important part, if I could write a serious statement, which I can't, or at least I can't wrap everything in one, would be related to some day I was trying to get ChatGTP to accept that there was art without expression, and it can't. It can't because somehow we, through history, related art to expression so much, and it makes sense because they are related, but ChatGTP can't make the gap and say, okay, there can be a way in which art and expression are not related, which is not what I try to do with my art, but is what I try to do with ideas, conceive a ground where expression is not the main thing, and it works in this way. It's art has always been there, and we go to art and find things, and we live surrounded by art, in great intensity or not, and things are like, I don't know if the word is impregnated. Is that a word?
It
Yeah,
is a
but things
word. I'm
are
not sure if it's
okay.
infusing it with meaning is the
Yeah,
word. Sort go
that's
go ahead.
it. That's it.
Or impregnating, sure.
Mate- material things are infused, right, of the impact of our lives, and they impact us. So it's great to have the idea that art is expression, but it's also fun or interesting to, in a universe where nothing is given and we don't know uh, uh, almost anything about the roots and basis of our reality, it is good to choose one thing as a given, that is art. So it's not longer about expression because it's everywhere and it's the only thing to not question. Because I did question art, right? And for example, at the beginning of the aesthetic theory by Theodor Adorno, there's this question if art has the right to exist anymore. And it's a serious question and makes sense because he's related to this idea that after the nuclear bombs, humanity makes like no longer sense. These um, positive descriptions of humanity, positive in the sense that saying a human is this, or we do this and this other thing, or a human is defined by this or that, and as all the ground of what humanity could be is broken, what is art talking about, right? And that's the question about its right to exist, or isn't it just decorating the total chaos and heartless universe we live in? So uh, I did that question strongly about art, and I decided that it was going to turn into the only thing that is a given to me.
Well, that was spoken like poetry there, Santiago. That was beautiful, and that is just a beautiful thought. If there's any given out there, it is art. That is beautiful. Babylon Real Estate. You're our last speaker here. Well, we're going to actually turn to Rune Tune, and if anybody else has any closing thoughts on stage, feel free to raise your hand, and I will bring you on. Babylon Real Estate. Where are you calling from? Good to see you back.
Wow, thanks. Yeah, I'm calling from sunny New York City, the island of Manhattan.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. So, Santiago, thank you for being so candid here. And I'm sorry that this is the last comment. I hope somebody else that maybe has something, but y'all have things to do. You said something interesting about not defining yourself by a sandwich, and I want to challenge you on that because I think it's so important to be defined by a sandwich. And I'm going to ask you what defines you as a sandwich, but I want to share with you what kind of defines me as a sandwich, because I had to think about this for a second. But imagine, right, you got some egg salad, you're gonna throw some Black Forest ham on there. Why does this define me? Because it's unexpected. Because it might sound gross, but you might like it. So, Santiago, I just want to
Yeah,
know
I
maybe
agree. I agree
if you had to.
completely.
So,
Yeah.
what defines you as a sandwich? If you had to choose right now, if you'll allow it, what is your sandwich and who are you?
Okay. So as I said, I went to decide that nothing can define anyone, or it wasn't important. But yeah, I'm definable, and the sandwich I eat is kind of very boring and neutral. I just ham and cheese and tomato and some olives, and if I can, garlic and some Dijon, but those add if I have the time to make the sandwich. If not, it's just ham and cheese inside bread. And I talk about sandwiches all the time. That's true. because I relate them to having work to do, I guess, and having money to pay sandwiches, because I could maybe making rice all every day.
Yeah, that's funny, man, that you had the olives on there, because that's starting to sound like a muffaletta. I don't know if you've ever had one of those, but it's a very New Orleans sandwich, and would love to share one with you in the beautiful city of New Orleans one day. But
Yeah,
anyway, put that on your radar. Thank you so much. And thank you for
I
your
love you,
candidness, man. This is
Fangers.
awesome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you. I love you too.
coming.
Yeah, thanks
Fangers
for
is
having
a
us.
great friend. We have been sharing art and conversation for long now.
I love it. And I'm just thinking of bacon now. I want bacon on my sandwich. I was thinking like maybe some like egg salad sandwich with bacon. I don't even know if that'd be my favorite, but man, got a craving for bacon. Anyways, thank you, Babylon Real Estate. That was an awesome, interesting, pertinent question for Santiago. I think you asked like the exact question that none of us could have asked here. Runetune and anybody else, Runetune, do you have any final thoughts for us as we wrap up another wonderful space here with Santiago?
I have several thoughts, but the show would have to
Go
continue.
for it. Go
It
for
was
it.
no, just kind of more, I guess, more observations. But I've been the whole time we've been talking. I keep looking at your Emergent Properties collection, and just seeing all these kind of referential things pop up in my mind. And I have this book of Peter Saul's artwork on my bookshelf, and I've been thumbing through that and looking at your work, and they seem to be very, very related, in the same way that describing yourself as a sandwich feels related. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, Santiago. You're very quotable.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Rune. It was beautiful being here and a dream of mine.
Hopefully, Ile will put together a list of quotes of yours taken from this episode.
I'm actually going to do that. I'm actually doing that with like most of the things. Santiago, I'll probably follow up with you and ask, because those like those shorts that are on YouTube or you see them on Twitter where it's like just I put people's art. I did one with Gogo Lightus that I released, but I actually have a ton that I'm kind of like are in the pipeline. And wouldn't it be wonderful to have quotes by Santiago with his art on it, just populating TikTok and whatever, I just think would be hilarious. So, anyways, thank you, everybody. Thanks to all the speakers and all the listeners for coming out. What a great crowd we have here. And thank you also to, most of all, to Santiago and to Runetune. Runetune every week here consistently. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And until next time, take care.
Goodbye. Thanks, friends.
Beautiful.